What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Project FitFo PodCast, where we sit here together collectively and we figure it the F out. I am so excited because this is numero uno, the number one podcast that we are recording. And never thought this day was going to happen. We've had some trials and tribulations getting to this point, but we are here. And so who gives a shit about all that? We're going to make things happen. So those of you out there, why would you want to be here? That's the funny part. I want to make sure that we make sure everybody knows that is why do you want to even listen to this podcast? Well, number one, I'm a pretty entertaining guy, at least from what I've been told. Number two is you are going to learn a lot. There's a lot of gems. I have a major network, and sometimes that network is people that are not so much just have 100 million followers and they're on TV or they own multi-million-dollar businesses. Sometimes that large network is also the average Joe or the average Jane or the average Daisy. So this is going to be something that you're going to get from perspectives of all different walks of life, all different types of people. You're going to get gems where we sit here and we figure it the F out. Everything from business to life, to being a dad, to being a husband, to being a wife, to being a spouse, to being a person, a human being, to being somebody who likes to give to charity, to being somebody who's religious, somebody who's not religious. I don't care. We're going to talk about life. We're going to talk about business, how it all rolls together, and how staying solution-focused, which this is also a plug for my solution-focused mastermind. If you ever want to come to it, great day to learning even more. And staying solution-focused and figuring the F out. So I got my my executive assistant, my right hand, who has helped me through this past year in business, and she's a boss in her own right. And I want to introduce to all of you Miss Daisy Santizo. Welcome to the Project FitFo Podcast.
Hi, happy to be here.
Yeah,
excited to be here.
There we go. So I know that a lot of times when we have people out there that don't like cursing. So if that's something that bothers you, I apologize in advance. But hey, they're gonna slip out. It's part of life and it's part of being normal. So that's what we want. We want everybody to be comfortable. But we also are not going to be just slinging F words left and right. So what do you want to talk about today, Daisy?
I don't know. Let's talk about what brought us here to be.
What brought us here? Okay, so, one of the biggest things that we're doing is we're scaling. So our businesses, the businesses that I have, all that I have put together with a wonderful team, we are scaling, and that's the thing. It's about forward progression. How have you enjoyed this ride so far?
It's been interesting, for sure.
Please elaborate.
I think, too, it's crazy to see where we're at. Like, we're literally in a podcast room in Frisco, Texas, 2024. But we talked about all of this in 2021?
Yeah, October 21. Yep.
And so it's crazy.
But where at? Make sure they know.
In California.
In California.
At headquarters in California. So it's crazy to see the progression of where this idea came about and when we started talking about it, and then seeing us literally figure it out and get here.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted you to be my guest on number one, right? Numero uno. I actually caught her downstairs in this beautiful place called the Maker's Gym. Shout out to Maker's Gym, where we are here filming this podcast. Terrence, the CEO and owner of this place. Shout out to Terrence. This place is phenomenal. Content creation, freaking palace. But with that, I reached down to her. We were getting coffee downstairs, and I said, "Hey, by the way, you're going to be my first guest." And she,
I was here for moral support.
She didn't even have her hair did, as she likes to say. So, but yeah, let's talk about October 2021. And let's talk about how this podcast even got thought about. So I mean, we were both in different places, but yet the same place, right? Different places in our lives, but almost at some sort of a crossroads or even a a question mark of what the future was to come.
Well, you know what's crazy too? It's like we figure it out, right? But when I reached out to you and talked to you that day, I was just like, I don't know what he's about or what he does really. I was like, but I need to be a part of it. So it's like, how do I do that? You know how some people are just like, well, I don't know. Like, how do I get in the room? How do I open that door? And it's just like, well, I just called you. I was just like, I
Pretty
literally
gangster,
don't
though.
know how I'm going to get in the room or at the table with this man, but I like what he's about and I like what he's preaching. So I need to be a part of that. And I was just like, I'm not going to figure it out if I don't just ask.
So many people are so afraid of asking that question, you know, or even taking that step, and you just like head first, right? No, not a care in the world.
I was like, well, what's the worst that can happen? He says no.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the end of the world.
Kind of give you guys a backstory to that. I used to host business seminars, right? So business seminars in California, and with the business seminars, Daisy had actually came to the first one that I hosted in October of 2021. And I mean, she didn't know this, but I was nervous, you know. I wanted to make sure I gave the great information. And of course, everybody goes through the imposter syndrome, like, who the hell am I to be teaching business? I'm not a multi-million-dollar person, you know. And I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time out there on social media, especially where people are like, oh, you know, don't go listening to somebody who hasn't actually done it. And it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? You know, what does that mean? Like, oh, don't talk to this person because they haven't done it. It's like, well, there's a lot of people doing great things, but maybe not making the amount of revenue that you would consider, oh, they haven't done it. And at that time, I was that guy. I hadn't done it. You know, I wasn't a multi-million-dollar guy or anything like that. And I'm still not even where I want to be. But, you know, I'm going to get there. You know, we're going to get there. And Daisy took that chance. She came to the seminar and then she heard what I say, but I guess I impressed you so much that I got a phone call and was like, hey, this is Daisy. And I was like, hey, how you doing? And she said, yeah, I want to work for you. And I said, whoa, okay. First of all, I don't have any employees, but it was pretty interesting that you can hear the level of, I want to work for you and I'm willing to go through the fire to do it.
I was like, oh, clean your toilets.
I said, please don't. No. I don't know if I can do that, you know? But yeah, she was really adamant about it. And explain to the audience, like, you taking that step. I mean, that's a big leap to go and, you know, put yourself out there. But as you said, getting in the room, were you in the room right away?
No.
Okay, so explain that time frame before you, so, you know, quotation marks, got in the room, so to speak.
I think it was a progression, not just with you, like, you know, like learning what it is that you did do and how, like, what your future path was and whether I wanted to be a part of that, but also like getting into the mindset of like, what do I want and what room do I want to be in? Because it's like, okay, cool, now I just solidified that I can create opportunity, but now what opportunities do I want? So what rooms do I want to be in? What tables do I want to sit at? And that's kind of where I started paying closer attention to you as to why you impressed me or why you drew my attention. And it was because everything that you had to say was just so business oriented. Like, you didn't even have to think about it. So it's crazy that you say that you had the imposter syndrome, because I went in there and I was just like, yo, like, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's been on the gym floor. Like, he's ex-Marine, you know, like, he's been in the grind, how we are in the grind, but it's like we see no light at the end of the tunnel. And so for me, it was just like, okay, cool. He went from, you know, getting out and then being retired and then having to figure it out. Like, what do I want to do with my life? And then being a trainer and then teaching trainers how to run a business was just so amazing to me, because I was like, if I had had this knowledge when I first became a trainer, my life would be very different right now. But when I met you, I had already been a trainer for 2 years and I wasn't making the income that I wanted. Everything that you talked about, I was just like, I need that. I need that. I haven't done that. I don't have an LLC. I don't know how to take a payment, process or whatever it was. I don't know what my values are. Like I know, but I don't know. And like it just hit home for me. And I was just like, if he had been my mentor when I first started, I would have saved myself 2 years of frustration, of running in circles, of making that 10K month and then losing it the next month because I didn't know how to replicate that. Just everything that you spoke about that day, I was just like, I want to be a part of that, because if he taught me that in one seminar, how many more people can I help with taking in that knowledge and then being able to pass it along?
Well, I think that, well, appreciate all the kind words, by the way. And I think that it's mutual respect because, as much as you give me that, I look at the fact that you came across and said, this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to do it. And yes, were you scared?
Very.
You were scared, right? So, I mean, every step of the way, have you been scared?
Yes.
Okay, so these are the gems that we talked about. Project FitFo gems, right? So everybody, please listen, because here's the gem. The gem is that even if you're afraid, still take that chance, right? Bet on yourself. You bet on yourself, and a few times actually that we've been around each other, you've bet on yourself. So how important is that message to get across, of what you've done to the audience, to be able to bet on yourself?
I think for me, it's just like, if I'm not willing to bet on myself, why would anybody else? And so it's like, if I can't find that confidence within myself to be like, hey, I deserve to be here and I deserve to be in the room and I deserve to take a chance on myself. It's just like, why would anybody else, or why would anybody else believe in me?
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that self-confidence. It's not very easy for a lot of people. I mean, is it easy for you?
No. I gotta remind myself every day.
You gotta remind yourself every day.
But I think too, it's scarier to think, what if?
Because anything happens.
Literally.
One of the things about by the way, I'm like, I love your story. I've always, me, I'm always a fan. And yes, she is my executive assistant, and yes, she's all that, but that doesn't mean you can't respect your team and your, the people that work for you and their grind, because every one of them has a story, and your story is significant. I've always been a fan. Daisy picked up. Now let's forward to 2022, right? So let's talk about the day I had to bet on myself.
Yeah.
Where I left a corporate headquarters job position, a pretty high position at that, and decided that, I am not an employee. That's not to shame those that are employees, because everybody has what their roles are and what they're good at. Some people make very, very, very good employees, but me personally, it just wasn't a position that I was good at. And the reason why is because I'm a natural born leader, and I had to bet on myself. As you stated, betting on yourself. I had to bet on myself to do something pretty crazy and pretty out of this world.
Yes.
So I decided to move somewhere that I've never lived, and actually open up a franchise of the corporation I was part of, which is Self-Made Training Facility. Shout out to my self-made family. And I decided to take over the Dallas facility. Dallas, Texas. Never lived there. Only visited twice. And I was like, yep, I'm going to go over there. 27 trainers at the time. Personal trainers, independent contractors within that facility, and none of them knew really anything about me. A couple of them knew me, but that was about it, but not really know me. They just knew of me. And I had to go into this place and change the whole culture, put rules in place, house policies, and build this thing up to be a successful place. With that being said, you had asked to work for me, and then I told you I was moving to Dallas, Texas. Now, talk about after I took over Dallas and moved, what was on your agenda? What did you tell me?
Well, you had painted a vision. You were like, I'm going to buy a franchise, I'm going to put a school in it, and then we're going to teach people how to be personal trainers and business owners. And I was like, I want to be a part of that. And you were originally supposed to do San Diego, which at the time I was living in Orange County. So I was like, cool, an hour commute. Like, no biggie. It's whatever. I was already set on that vision. So I had already put that vision into my path. So when you showed up in Costa Mesa at our monthly meeting and you were like, hey, by the way, I'm going to Dallas. I was like, what? I remember I was in shock because I was just like, well, he can't like just do it without me. Like, that's not fair.
My media guy is right now looking for the right sound effect. And he's like,
I think I know which one it is, but I don't want to just.
no, it's all good. If you got to hit it, go ahead. But go ahead. I can't, he just can't do it without me. Okay, go ahead.
Because I was like, I was already attached to the vision.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I was going to be a trainer and I was going to be an instructor and I was going to teach other people how to not be frustrated and be an under the table trainer like I was. So I was already invested. And I remember you were like, I'll put you in for a rec for educational director. And I'm like, I don't even know what you do as that. Like, what? Like, what is that? And I remember I went home and I slept on it. I went to sleep just kind of like troubled. I was just like, I don't like what he's going to Dallas. Like, what's in Dallas? Why Dallas? And I don't like, I slept on it. And the next morning I was just like, I could go to Dallas. And I remember I called you and I was just like, hey, so like, what does going to Dallas look like for you? And you're just like, I'm going to do everything I said I would, but instead of San Diego, I'm going to do it in Dallas. Yeah. And I was like, cool, I'm on board.
And I said, yeah, right. And I ain't gonna lie to you. I tell this story all the time. I didn't believe her. I was like, you ain't gonna move to Dallas, you know? And this is honestly the first time where in I would say in my civilian world, because, you know, in the military, I was responsible for a lot of people. In the military, I was responsible for people's lives. You know, that's a very big responsibility. Whether it was in combat, where, you know, I went to Iraq, or whether it was even in the home front, you know, being responsible for, you know, however many, you know, hundreds of Marines or thousands of Marines I was actually, you know, in contact with. Now here I am in a civilian world, and I'm like, if this young lady moves to Dallas, I am responsible for her. Like, you know, and it was my first time in business having, you know, somebody that actually works for me and that I would be responsible for. So it was a little, I definitely was not believing you that you were going to come. I was honored that you said it, but I was like, she ain't coming.
You're like, yeah, right.
So fast forward now to, that was August of 2022 that I moved. And then now we're going into November. And I had, you know, the big grand opening of Self-Made Training Facility Dallas with me as the official owner. And we'll go from there.
I don't remember if I hit you up or you hit me up, and I was just like, hey, like, I'm still coming for the grand opening. And I busted a mission to get here, by the way. I couldn't find a flight from Orange County, so I drove to Vegas and then took a flight from Vegas to Dallas.
Y'all hear this? Y'all
I
hear
drove
this?
4 hours.
Hey.
I drove 4 hours from Orange County to Vegas, parked my car at the airport, and I took this flight, came to Dallas, and it was just an experience, honestly. Like, the culture at the gym, meeting everybody, seeing you like in full force, just like being the owner, and like the grand opening was a ball. Like, it was a party. And I was just like, this is exactly what I envisioned myself being a part of. I had a car, so I was able to drive around. I checked out Trader Joe's because I love Trader Joe's. They should sponsor me. And I toured an apartment, and I was sold. It reminded me of home. So I'm originally born in San Francisco and lived in the area, you know? So it was just like, it reminded me, like, the tall buildings felt like home. And I was just like, I could see myself living here. I toured an apartment, a great culture here, and I was just like, I'll be here. And I even told you that when I was leaving, and I was like, cool, I'll see you in January.
Yeah, that's what she told me. She said, I'm sold. I'll see you in January. And again, I didn't believe her. So did not believe her. I was like, okay, whatever. You know, we'll see when it happens. But now we fast forward. You know, going through the trials and tribulations of getting everybody where they needed to be culturally within the facility. Basically building a structure. You know, losing a lot of trainers, gaining trainers, and really going through the business ups and downs as I did those first couple of months. And then fast forward to January 15th.
When I got here?
Yeah.
16th.
16th. I always get those days mixed up. So the 16th. I knew it was somewhere around there. Yeah. So January 16th, and I'm standing in the front, and who pops in through that front door? It says, I'm here.
I am here.
And like, holy shit, she came. I can't believe she's actually here. Now, let me speak this out to the audience, because I think that this is very important. Yeah, we have a personal relationship, but we have a strong business relationship as well. And I want to, put this out there to everybody, because I think it's very important. The biggest thing that I take from Daisy in those moments and these things that we're talking about is the level of loyalty. That's number one. Loyalty to the brand, loyalty to me, loyalty to herself. There's a loyalty that's there that I respect 100 grand. But the other thing is that taking a chance on yourself and saying, you know what, I'm going to do this. Finding somebody who actually can help you to push yourself past your own doubts and your own, what you think is your capabilities, And that was one thing I have done. I've challenged you a lot. We've had some interesting conversations, and it ain't all giggles, right? No. So I think that everybody needs to understand that Daisy has learned that I could be a tough guy when I need to be, but also she's also understanding that we pivot. We don't sit there and wallow, and we figure it the F out.
Literally.
This is gonna be fun for me to yeah, there you go. So we're gonna figure it out. There we go. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so Daisy, let's talk about now that next year. So January 16th to present day.
Well, actually, let's backtrack a little.
Let's backtrack. Let's go. We got some time. Go ahead. Let's backtrack.
The part you're saying about like taking that chance and the loyalty, and which I appreciate. Thank you.
Yeah.
But it just also says a lot about you. And what I mean by that is just you don't speak to the current version of me. You speak to who I have the potential to be.
Absolutely.
And you always challenge me to show up as her.
Yeah.
And when you find someone like that, it's hard to let go, because not everybody does that. Like, I remember having conversations previously before moving here and before like even interacting with you, where I'd be like, oh, like today sucks, or like, wallowing in my misery, and the person I'd be talking to would let me. And they'd be like, yeah, that sucks, and we'll just sit here and be miserable together.
I already know where this is going.
Whereas with you, I'm just like, hey, this sucks, and you're just like, okay, so figure it out. Or you're just like,
that's right.
Or are you done? Like, we got stuff to do, and it's just, I can't help but be loyal to that, because you make me better, and you help me progress forward, and you challenge me forward, and you challenge me into becoming the person that I want to be. I've just had trouble getting there.
You hear this, leaders? I hope you're out there. Leaders that are watching this podcast, you hear this, right? Sometimes you have to be the aggressor. You can't always be, because I'm sure at those moments you didn't like me very much.
Yeah. I'm just like, well, why can't he just like hear me out or like hug me or something?
Yeah, and, all right. And I'm like, get to work, right? So, and it's funny because it's people think that sometimes you have to be, extreme left or extreme right when it comes to leadership. Okay, extreme left is like, well, I want everybody to love me. I want everybody to like me, so that's great, and then you got the extreme right where it's like, and where's the knife hands at, right? This is the moment where we should get the knife hands in, and punch you in the throat type stuff. And, but you have to find a happy median. There has to be a harmony between the extreme left and extreme right, because my team doesn't always like me, but my team will respect me and I respect them. And sometimes I don't like them, to be honest. I mean, that's just the natural way of life. But I think that the one thing I will say is that you've never felt any bit, but, how do I put it? You've never been disrespected, right? So it's never been a disrespect, and you always know everything comes from a good place. So that's important. I'm actually going to chime into my media guy here, Tony. So, Tony.
Yes.
Okay, you're here now, right? And I know the camera's not on him, and that's fine. He doesn't need to be on camera. He's the media guy. He's supposed to be behind the camera. But I'm gonna throw a curveball. Tony, does this sound familiar?
Oh, absolutely no, because I mean, it takes a lot of courage to know those things that you want to hear from people, but you don't want to ask those questions.
Mm-hmm.
You get real scared. You get discouraged. There's a lot of times you want to ask someone like, "Hey, I just need that help. I need that motivation. I need that guidance."
Yeah.
And not everybody always wants to talk about it. They don't ever actually want to ask those people like, "Hey, how did you get to where you're at?" Because I want to emulate that. I like the path you've chosen.
Mm-hmm.
I want to continue to follow the path you have created for yourself, and then make my own with the guidance that you give me. So I mean, like only just a few months ago, I was sitting there not really enjoying my life in complete honesty. Like I was trucking. Route started at 2 a.m. in the morning, working till 9, and then lo and behold, I come out to an event, and then hey, I see something in you. Every time you always say, I see something in you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh, well, I mean, I'm just Tony, man. I'm just helping out a video right now. And then you were like, set it up. Daisy, set up the video. Hey, and you did not let me leave that event. And you had reminded me 3 times, hey, go set up the event. Go set the thing, and I was
You're
scared.
talking about setting up a meeting with me. So I had told Tony that I was like, hey, you need to go see Daisy. This is Daisy, Tony, Daisy. Make sure he doesn't leave here without scheduling an appointment with me so we can sit down and talk. And I saw you about two more times during that event, and I was like, you set up the meeting yet? And you just kept looking at me with that smile you have right now. And he was like, yo, is this dude serious right now?
But that kind of goes back to what I just said. Like I was nervous. Like I knew because I've heard of you in so highly manner from a lot of my friends, especially my friend Jesus that works at the gym, and he's like, no, this guy can help you, man, because like you don't like your life. He was honestly like, you don't like your life. I'm like, I don't. Not right now. This moment, I'm making money. Don't get me wrong. But was it worth my sanity, my mentality? Absolutely not. And now here I am on our first podcast. Yeah. I'm over here watching you guys, and I'm over here still smiling. And now I'm part of the podcast now, so I'm kind of nervous. I'm on the spot. But no, like she just said, like, I mean, the one thing she just said a minute ago that really just hit is that you don't talk to me. You talk to the future me.
Yeah.
And that just hit.
I think that's, you know what, and this is important to understand that I believe in, and this is for all you leaders out there. Again, we're dropping gems. And you're hearing it from people that are, part of my team. But then you're hearing it as, their own entities. Look, I want my team to have some sort of a side hustle. I'm okay with that, as long as you don't take away from your primary function. Go out there, make some extra cash. Learn the business side, have your own business on the side, and then produce over on this side. Am I the best leader out there? No, I don't believe that. Everybody has there's plenty more that are out there that are way better than me in leadership. And trust me, I have my flaws. But I think that at the end of the day, when you believe in people and you believe in what they can bring to the table and you can see it in them, that's something that's so important, because at the end of the day, we're not on this earth forever. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, there's a moment we can leave today and something can happen, God forbid, but that's not, of course, we don't have anxiety about that. We just live our life to the fullest. But if we can be leaders and be able to bring out the best in people so they can live their lives to the fullest, because sometimes they stop themselves, they restrict themselves. And you guys both have the potential to be enormous leaders and bosses of your own right. And I think that it's gonna show here in the next couple of years. This thing has been manifesting. Hey. Manifest Fitness Institute, shout out. This thing has been manifesting since 2019. from me, and being able to have my team with me has been tremendous. I mean, it's been awesome. I get giddy. I get the little. Don't even talk about the emoji with the little freaking thing. And I remember
tears in it.
You know what's funny is there was a specific conference we went to last April of 2023, and I actually got called out because I called my team my family. You remember that?
I do.
Yeah. And that became a real topic of discussion.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because looking back, I had somewhat of a question mark because the person that told me don't ever call your team your family. They're not your family. They're your employees. They're your team, but they're not your family. And I sat there and I, of course, brushed it off. And then I thought about it. And I'm interested to see what, you know, I hope that one day we can, which is going to happen, we'll have the chat, you know, we'll have this go live and we'll be able to hear people's perspectives and, you know, on this. But, you know, should you call your team your family? And here's my answer, because Daisy and Tony are two people that definitely can attest to this. They can speak from experience. If I got to put the hammer down, it is what it is, and we're going to make things happen. And they know that. But at the end of the day, I'm responsible subliminally for them and their success. So I care about them as much as I care about my own family. So why shouldn't I call them my family? And when it comes to family, even our own family members can be jacked up, right? I think all of us have somewhat of the equivalent of that. But at the end of the day, you still love them. At least I do. I may not mess with them, may not talk with them, but I still love them. And I still wish the best for them. And if they ever needed me, I'd still be there. So I think that's what I feel when I look at my team. I will always be there for them. And if they're not my team members and they called me and they say, hey, Mark, I need your advice, what would I say? Of course, what you need, you know? And I think that that's important because I want my team to feel like a family. I want them to feel like, you know, hey, we know that if there's anything that goes down, which life hits, there's somebody on our team that we can talk to if need be. And it doesn't feel so cold. And I don't understand cold. I don't understand that. But that's just me. Now we'll see through time because, A, data, right? If I call my team my family, does that equate to high revenue? Does it equate to massive scaling of businesses? You know, does it equate to all that? Can it? I guess we'll just have to see. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I guess it depends on the person a lot too.
Right?
It depends on the person that you're calling family.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's always going to be a hierarchy.
Absolutely.
Like, hey, if you're my boss and I call you family and I treat you like that, do I have the respect as the individual to know, hey, that's still my boss at the end of the day.
Yes.
He cares for me. He'll ride or die for me. But just like he gives me the respect of calling me his family and taking care of me like that, I got to give him the respect that's, hey, that's the chief right there. He's helping me. So it's like you give.
You got it. I think it's a great question. I think it's a great debate, you know.
Well, as you were just talking, I looked up the word family.
Go ahead, Merriam-Webster. Let's get it down.
And there's a bunch of definitions, you know, like parents, children, living together, children of a person or couple. But one of them, it says a group of related things. And I feel like that's where we all relate. Like we're all on a similar mission. We're all with a similar vision, you know, of what our future entails. And I mean, people have come and gone. And the ones who stay loyal are the ones who share that commonality in the vision. So I feel like at the end of the day, yes, we call it family because we all respect each other. We all love each other. We all are here with a mutual vision, but not family in the sense of like we're just going to let things slide because they're blood related or, you know, like I feel like for me and my family, like family was always loyalty, was always love, was always support, was always I'm going to call you out when you're doing things wrong but I'm gonna help you be better.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what my family is, and I feel like that's what I feel like this family is also.
Yes, absolutely. Very well said. I 100% agree. And I love the words you use. You know, we all know the mission. We all know the vision. You know, it's funny because I see this come up in conferences and in seminars and masterminds. It's like, does your team know your mission? Does your team know your vision? And I'm just sitting there with a big smile on my face. They absolutely 100% do.
Yeah.
They better. And I'll ask them, recite it right now. Tell us what the mission is. And they all know. So where are we at as far as time?
Time on deck.
Yeah, no, as far as how long we've been on this podcast.
We've been on recording for about coming on about 35 minutes.
Okay, 35 minutes. Let me know when it's 40 minutes, okay?
Okay.
All right, so again, this is podcast number 1, so we are working out the kinks
We're figuring it out, though.
figuring it out, right? So why let's fast forward. Let's just go into the whole Project FitFo. Why Project FitFo? Why would we do that? I'm going to hear your perspective on it since we just talked about you knowing the mission and knowing the vision. Why Project FitFo?
Because we always just got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like at the end of the day, everything that we've established since 2021 to now, fast forward to today, even like the question you asked earlier, like what's happened since January 23 when I got here to January 24 that just passed, I had to figure it out. And that's always been, it's almost like the mission statement without being the mission statement.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember even my first month here, I was just like, hey, Mark, like, I might be late on my rent. You're just like, well, you got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? Like, I just got here. I just moved here, you know? And
I wasn't going to pay it for you.
And it was so easy to come up with those excuses and the buts.
Mm-hmm.
And you looked me dead in the face and you were just like, well, you're going to have to figure it out. You have until the 1st. And that's what this is.
Now, making sure that everybody in the audience knows because they don't know how to check. Just Daisy Santizo is also a personal trainer within
Yes.
the facility, so she has to lease the space, and they pay a monthly lease, like almost like a barbershop. That's the way self-made training facility business model is, and so she's also a personal trainer on the opposite end, also as being my executive assistant. So that's her side hustle, so to speak.
Right.
So that's what you were referring to as far as paying the rent on the 1st. Mm-hmm. Okay, so go ahead. I apologize.
And you were still just like, yeah, you're going to have to figure it out. And so since even before getting here, like, how am I going to get here? How am I going to get all my stuff here? How am I going to get an apartment? How am I going to pay for that? It was just figure it out. And it's like we can sit and wallow for, 5 minutes, but it's just like, that's not going to solve anything. And with everything, like, it's just like, okay, how do we get, the facility up to culture? How do we get this amount of trainers in the facility? How do we get clients in the door? How do we get XYZ,
Retail,
like everything,
supplements.
How do we get it up to par? How do we get it up to where we need to be? Like, how do we do a mastermind? Like, how do we, like anything and everything? Like, there is no limit and there is no box.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, we just need to figure out how to do the things that we want and to be able to make the impact and bring the vision to life.
Absolutely. Oh, man. I couldn't have said it better. Project FitFo. We are here. This is it. This is number 1, numero uno. And I'm going to tell you this. I put together Project FitFo based off of the mastermind that we held. And Daisy took care of all the logistics on that one. And I was just the talent. But we actually realized that a lot of people don't know what FitFo even means. Right. Yes, there's another podcast out there that has the FitFo name inside of it, but you know what? It's still not Project FitFo, okay? And just want to throw that out there.
We're
Talk it. Talk it.
Yeah, they're
We're
them
different.
and we're us, right? Because I live FitFo, so I'm going to go ahead and end this real quick on my life. And Daisy, I appreciate you and your words and everything and being here and showing everybody what FitFo really, really means because you are an example of it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely,
Appreciate
absolutely. So FitFo, Project FitFo, figure it the F out. Figure it the what? Out. There we go. Okay, so this is one of the things that I wanted to share with everybody before we go ahead and make this the ending. I had been figuring it out since 16 years old, okay? I have an older son with Down syndrome. He was born when I was 17, okay? I found out I was going to be a dad at 16. And my parents looked at me and said, well, you need to figure it out, okay? I went to the Marine Corps. I wanted to quit and recruit training. What? You got to figure it out. Went to Japan, went to Hawaii, had more kids, got married, got divorced, went to Iraq, got remarried again, had, kids, bought houses, lost my house when I got divorced. I can name all types of stuff. And guess what I had to do? Figure it out. And then I retired. I retired from the Marine Corps and abruptly, so to speak, and was told, hey, you're reaching service limitations. It's time for you to roll. And I had to figure it out, and that's just the way it is. Then I went to becoming a personal trainer, an independent contractor, and guess what? I had to figure it out. And as I moved forward and I moved to Dallas, Texas, and here we are now a year and a half later, going from 27 trainers in our facility to having 55 trainers in the facility, I had to figure it out. And lastly, opening up multiple businesses that are vertically integrated and figuring how I can have all these team members working together and scaling these businesses. And guess what? I had to figure it out. So the moral of the story for this podcast, and I want you to listen closely on every single episode. Every single episode, I'm going to have people, I'm going to have guests in the same way I had Miss Daisy Santizo and my media guy, my main media guy, my co-media guy, because I got my boy Webster as well, Tony here. Everybody's figuring it the F out. And the thing is that we're doing it quite nicely, if you ask me.
I think so.
So tune in for our next episode 2 of the Project FitFo podcast, where you listen in and we figure it out. We will talk soon. Later. Thank you guys for visiting Project FitFo podcast. If you wouldn't mind, I would love for you to like, subscribe, and share to somebody that this would actually benefit, or just because it's pretty funny and it has some interesting shit. So with that, please visit us on Spotify and on YouTube, and you can also look us up on the gram. I look forward to hearing from all of you. If you want something good, go ahead and comment Project FitFo, and I'm going to send you something in your inbox. Talk soon.